All right. So I want to talk to you about alignment. When your back is out of alignment, you're going to walk crooked, and you have to go to a specialist, usually a chiropractor. And the purpose of a chiropractor, their number one purpose is to get you into alignment. It's their number one purpose. Because once you're in alignment, then your body self-heals. See, until you're in alignment, your body is not going to self-heal. It's dealing with the trauma that has you out of alignment. Now, we talk about a lot of different things, and there's strategies we can talk about, but I want to talk to you about the inner game for a moment. And part of the inner game is getting yourself in alignment with the success that you want to have. You have to begin to think different about money. When you don't have money, it is hard to be excited about not having money. Everything is more expensive when you don't have money. And I know that may sound weird, but just think about it. When you don't have money, interest rates are higher because you're considered to be more of a risk, so they charge you more for getting a loan. When you don't have money, payments can be late, so now you get a fee, a late fee. So when you don't have money, you're actually punished for not having money. Society and the system will punish you for lack of money because society is like a jackal or a hyena. And I don't mean like just people in society. I mean the way the whole system is set up. You see, the system is set up to 100% go after the weakest prey. If you've ever seen a program on a nature program, you know, hunters, wild predators, they don't try and always go after the biggest, strongest. If they can, they go after the youngest, the slowest, the weakest, because that's an easy kill. Well, for corporations, that banking, the weakest members of our society financially are the easiest prey. Predatory lending is a phrase. You've got bad credit, you need to borrow money for a car, they're giving you some crazy interest rate, but you really, really need a car. So you end up paying it, and then you end up not being able to really pay it, and then they repossess your car, which destroys your credit, and then the cycle continues, but now it gets worse. Okay, if anyone on here can relate from personal experience to what I'm talking about in terms of money not being right and you having to pay a greater price because money was not right, hit *6, unmute yourself and say I.
I.
Okay. So I'm going to give you a story. This all together. Thank you for speaking up. I appreciate it. This is a true story, by the way. This is not make-believe. I'm in Philadelphia, and I need a car. I gave that example because that was me. And I went to a place, I'll never forget it, called a Mary Motors. It's still in Philadelphia right now. I drove by there the last time I was in Philly doing an event. And I drove by a Mary Motors, and there's a guy there. And this guy was my lender, you know, the finance officer. And I'm talking to him, and, you know, my credit was whack. And he's like, and I didn't understand how money works, right? So, you know, they talk about the payments, but I didn't understand how it works. I was too young. I was fresh out of college. And he said, okay, you know, we can do this for you. Here's what we can do for you. Because, you know, they always do something for you because it's really about helping you, right? And he's like, you know, we're going to give you like a 19% interest. Now, 19% interest on a car, you think to yourself, that's outrageous. But when you're a new college graduate, you don't understand anything about how money works. You're desperate because you need to have a car, right? So 90%, you look at your payments like, I can do that. Well, I didn't do that. I couldn't do that. I Couldn't afford it. Didn't realize. First couple of months I was okay. After that, though, not okay. After that, I look up and I can't make my car payments. I'm getting phone calls from the bank, the loan, the lender. You need to pay us. You're late on this, and this whole conversation. I think a lot of people can understand what I'm talking about. And I'm panicked because I cannot pay the car payment, but I need the car. And I'm like, can you give me a month? Can you give me a da-da-da-da-da? They're like, okay, we're going to charge you late fee. Okay, great. Now I got a late fee. Now I got a late fee and a late payment. So now I'm paying the late payment and the late fee, which means I owe more money, and I'm falling further and further behind. One day I wake up, and the car is gone. I remember this absolute moment of panic and terror. The car is gone. Now I don't know what to do because the car is gone. And I'm looking around and I'm thinking to myself, how did this happen? Well, it wasn't hard to happen. You see, I was in a space of being financially weak. And because I was in a space of being financially weak, I was vulnerable. And look, here's the reality. I did not make the payment. That is the reality. So when you run a business, I was so mad at the lender, I wasn't mad at myself. So the first lesson is not to crucify yourself, but to take personal responsibility for money. You see, I was upset with them that I didn't have the money. I was upset with them that I didn't have the money. Think about that. I was upset with them that I didn't have the money. I was mad that they took the car. I had to borrow a friend's car. So she was kind enough to let me borrow her car. This is true. I would wake up. I would drive her to work. She would meet me. I would drive her to work. And then I would take the car and run the errands I needed to run, looking for jobs, all this other stuff to get myself together financially. Now, why am I having this conversation with you? Because I would say that was a point in my life where I was at one of my lowest levels of thinking. I was in desperation mode. I was in how can I flip a dollar mode. I was thinking from the bottom. And when you're thinking from the bottom, you can only go to the bottom. And then someone gave me a call. A buddy gave me a call. And they talked to me about something called the law of attraction. And they talked to me and said, look, you need to get yourself together. And so they gave me a book by JamesAdlam called As a Man Thinketh. And this is a very quick book. I read the book in probably about an hour and a half. And I just started to feel different. I started to vibrate different. I started to realize that I had all the ability, but my thinking was lack, desperation, I don't have enough. I was living from scarcity, and the only thing that can come from scarcity is you're always scared. You're always scared when you're living in scarcity. And so I began listening to all these things about the law of attraction. I watched a movie called The Secret. I started visualizing and meditating and thinking about what I wanted. And all of a sudden, things began to shift. And I started to have breakthroughs around the areas of money. Because I grew up in a household where money was not a topic you talked about. We didn't have enough, can't pay for that, don't do that, put that back, don't have it. And I didn't realize that those things had an impact on me where I never felt comfortable around money, never felt comfortable with it. And the evidence of it was I would have money, then money. And it was like this cycle. But once I started to understand what was going on with an inner game, I began to say, I need to work on my inner game. And so today, I'm talking to you about this because I'm not the only one that has dealt with this. And this is something that you have to deal with. It's almost like being an alcoholic. You can always be tempted by alcohol. You just have to be deliberate mentally and not put yourself in situations where the thing that is a weakness for you is present. And so in the area around money, some people have a weakness around money. And the moment something comes up financially, their automatic response is no. And the reason why their automatic response is no, I can't do that. I'll do that later. I can't pay for that. I'll pay for that later. Instead of thinking, how can I, which Rich Dad, Poor Dad talks about, poor people say, I can't do it. Rich people say, how can I do it? It's not that rich people just have the money laying around. Before they had the money, they didn't have the money. What they had was the motivation to figure out the situation. They had the motivation to figure out, how can I do it? Versus poor people. Poor really means passing over opportunity repeatedly. That's poor people. Money is not what stops you. Lack of money is not what stops you. It's the thinking that stops you. It's the actual belief that you don't have enough. It's coming from a place of scarcity. And so that's why you have people that are in our business and they have all the ability and they think that it's the people around them. They think, oh, well, I just haven't talked to the right people. But it's you're attracting the wrong people because you're displaying the wrong thinking. What are you doing to work on yourself? I'm going to give you a couple of resources right now. One is a book called As a Man Thinketh by JamesAdlam. It's classic. It was written so long ago. The principles of that book will change your life. Change your life. Another is The Teachings of Abraham by Jerry and Esther Hicks, Hicks. That will change your life. Now, here's what's great. What I'm giving you is on YouTube right now. The other one is anything that is by Bob Proctor. Bob Proctor. I encourage you to go on a diet. And I encourage you, now when I say diet, I'm going to change it. I encourage you to go on a lifestyle change. I encourage you to listen to something that any one of these people produce for the next 30 days. For the next 30 days, I want you to go into a space of manifestation for the creation of the life that you want, rather than dealing with things as they are. Money, success, influence, all those other things. I'll tell you what, when I look back and I sit and really stop and think about how I used to think about things, it's no wonder I never had enough. It's no wonder. But I didn't know any better until someone showed me an alternate route. And now I can't sit and listen to lackey talk. And I look, even if I have a moment where something's in lack, I don't want to talk about it. I'd rather just be silent because I don't want to keep perpetuating the same cycle. So why am I having this conversation? For some of you, there's things that you do in this business that have nothing to do with this business. You're perpetuating a behavior that it's a learned behavior, and it's your default mechanism. For instance, we talked about going to the elevator vent. You automatically shut it down because it's not financially convenient. And you don't realize that behavior that you display is the very thing that will keep you trapped. Instead of saying, how can I make it? You just say, no, can't make it. Can't do it. Can't, no, can't. When someone says, hey, you need to do this, nope, can't, nope, can't, nope, not now, later, not now. We have people that see our business. We have people that see our business. It is $324. Let me give you perspective on that. There are 52 weeks right now in a given year. That means that for the typical person, there are 50 working weeks in a given year. The average of 2 weeks off of vacation, right? So let's say this. Let's say it's $324. $324. Let's say that I divide that by 50 working weeks. You're telling me that the person that you present this business to, if you divide 324 by 50, is not able to save $6.48 per week. Because if they could save $6.48 per week, they would have $324. Now, here's the thing. If they're sitting at home and playing video games all day, well, of course they shouldn't have the money. But that's not the situation for most people. For most people, they are not sitting at home playing video games all day. They're actually working. So how is someone working for 50 weeks, 52 they're being paid for, and still they do not have $324? And you think to yourself, oh, well, times are tough. Times are tough. It's not just that times are tough. It's that if the thinking is not right, then they will have money, but it will not last. It will not stay. And for most people, we're taught so many things, but we're not taught how to think about money. I'm not talking about making money. I'm talking about how to think about money. Because if you don't think about money, it is a very hard thing to master. How do you think about money? Some of you on here, you're already wealthy and successful. Congratulations. The thing that you lack is time. So you want to have more time. I got it. Well, to have more time, you want to create continuous flows of revenue, which allows you to have more time. Some of you don't have money the way you want it, and you don't have time. So here you have an opportunity that has the ability to give you money and time, which is freedom. But if your thinking is not right, you will take the opportunity you have here and squander it. And it will be poisoned by a limiting belief system of struggle and lack, and I don't have enough, and we can't pay for that right now, and give me 2 weeks, and give me a week. You will use language that is the total counter to the life that you want. And we don't even realize how we talk is so disempowering. And then we're around other people who talk in a disempowering way. And so when we come to this community in Team Revolution, and we say, hey, you can do it and all this other stuff, you hear us, but you don't hear us. You're hearing the echoes of the other people long before us whose story you bought into and then you made manifest for how your life is going to turn out. When I used to live in the Mount Airy section of Philadelphia before I was in the Germantown section. And this guy next to me, I remember going to his house one day, real cool guy. And he had the largest TV I'd ever seen in my entire life. This TV was so big, it was like the size of the wall. And I thought to myself, how much does this TV cost? Because it was literally almost the size of the wall. And I said, man, that's a big TV. And he's like, yeah, I ain't going nowhere. And he said it so casually, I ain't going nowhere. So he was making where he is as comfortable as possible. And I'm thinking, I'm not trying to stay here. I'm trying to get out. Does that make sense? I'm trying to get out. In his mind, he ain't going nowhere. So as long as I'm going to be here, I might as well make here as comfortable as possible. Everyone, with this opportunity, you have a chance to break out. But it will not allow for you to break out until you shift how you see money. What is the identity you have around money? What is the identity you have around time? Are you holding yourself back from the next level because you're holding on to thinking at the current level? Are you surrounding yourself with people that are stretching you to think higher? Or are you tethering yourself to people that are keeping you thinking the way you used to just because you share a bloodline? When an opportunity to break out arises, is the first word out of your mouth, I can't afford it? We can't afford that right now. Or do you say, how can I afford it? Or how can I do it? Because the difference will be wealth as an opportunity or maintenance/lack as an opportunity. Both are opportunities. You can have the opportunity for lack, or you can have the opportunity for freedom. But the choices that you make on a consistent basis gives you access to either path. What are you doing to grow your inner financial game so that it becomes your outer financial reality? And my hope is that you work as hard on yourself as you do on your job. Matter of fact, harder. And that you do the work you need to do on yourself, like the work I need to do on myself, so that we don't take this amazing opportunity and squander it and burn it on the altar of limiting beliefs. For most people, their limiting belief system has them take this opportunity and squander it. And they look up 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 7 years from now, and here they have an opportunity to become free, and they settle for $100 residual. They settle for $1,000 residual. They have freedom here, literally life-changing money, life-changing opportunity. But because of the limiting belief system, they settle for a $500 residual, which, don't get me wrong, it's better than nothing. But if you wanted freedom and you're settling, then there can be no real peace around that.